Hello, welcome to Monday's Notts Today with me, Al Booth. I hope you're well, I hope you had a good weekend. This is what we've got on the show for you today. First, more than £9 million of levelling up cash was put at risk in Hucknall after last week's budget. We'll have the reaction for you on that.
Huge amounts of officer time and partner time have been spent on putting this bid together. So it's not a small piece of work. So we're really frustrated by this because we're ready to get going on this and Hucknall really needs this. We were fearful that this might happen, but I was really surprised when it did.
And we're also going to be looking at another measure in last week's budget and how former miners will get back vital cash taken from their pension pots. It's all thanks to a manifesto pledge being kept by the Labour Party in last week's budget. In a few moments, we'll be talking through what that could mean for thousands of former Notts mine workers. And later on in the show, we'll be finding out how a new University of Nottingham project is aiming to help us better understand artificial intelligence. The university has been given a £6 million grant to research how AI can be used in art forms like music and dance. And we've been out to hear how early on do you start celebrating Christmas?
1st December is Christmas, until end December, that's it.
As soon as Halloween's over for me.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, gives you time to save up for Christmas.
December, that's right.
But not before.
That's just wrong.
In sport, we're going to hear from Nottingham Forest head coach Nuno Espirito Santo after their 3-0 win against West Ham that lifted them into 3rd place in the Premier League.
I think we control really well the danger that West Ham has with this quality in front, Bowen, Paquetá, someone with the speed, so this is what was important.
Right, all that and loads more coming up just for you. First though, a long-standing fight by former miners right here in Notts and all around the country to recover some of their pension pot has finally started to pay off. Campaigners have been trying to recover surplus cash in the mine workers' pension scheme for the past 30 years. They've said successive governments had taken £1.5 billion without putting it back in. Well, a manifesto pledge by the Labour Party came off last week. That was when Chancellor Rachel Reeves confirmed this cash will be given back to members, benefiting them to the tune of about £29 a week. Our news editor, Andrew Topping, is with us now to explain more. Andrew, just give us a bit of a background then on this.
So the Mine Workers Pension Scheme was first set up in 1952. Now you take yourself back to 1950s, that was when the coal industry was at its height, was powering homes across the country, and of course it was a massive industry. Here in Nottinghamshire you go to Mansfield, you go to Gedling, collieries everywhere, former collieries everywhere, and the lasting impact of the mine working industry still there today. People still talking about it. The miners' strike, people still have debates over it. It divides families still. Well, when British Coal was privatised in 1994, the Mine Workers Pension Scheme was, of course, the scheme that some miners used as part of their arrangements. We all have one workplace pensions. And it was promised then that a 50-50 surplus arrangement between the government and the mine workers would mean that if ever the Mine Workers Pension Scheme fell into a deficit, the government would kind of be there to make sure that they didn't lose any money and the value of the pensions didn't decrease. Now, over the course of the last 30 years, successive governments have made about £1.5 billion off of this without actually putting anything back into it to give back to the miners. And there's been this long-standing campaign, at least for as long as I've been a journalist, which is the last 7 years, but I think even longer, from the mine workers, campaigning to get this money back, saying to the government, you've taken from us, you've taken this money from the Mine Workers Pension Scheme, without giving us anything back, and we think it's time for us to get our fair share. So that's kind of where it was up until this announcement last week.
Okay, so why has it taken like 30 years to get to where we are now then?
So when I was back in Mansfield covering as a local reporter, Boris Johnson came to town during the 2019 general election, and he promised categorically that mine workers would get their fair share from the Mine Workers Pension Scheme. He said that he's looked into it, it'll be done. He made this categorical pledge. Fast forward 2 years later, he's won the election, he's got the votes of Mansfield, he's got the votes of Ashfield, and he's quizzed in a select committee inquiry in Parliament about this exact pledge that he made. You said this to the Mansfield Chat at the time. What's happening with it? And he couldn't remember making that pledge. He said he'll have to look into it, but he couldn't remember making it. And these comments, as well as investigations by the inquiry team into the impact of the financial burden of former miners, they looked at some of the people who are really struggling to make ends meet and kind of putting forward these personal stories of mine workers. they came up with the recommendation that about £1.2 billion should be put back into the scheme by the government, which could then be used to benefit the mine workers. Now, in 2021, after this review, this recommendation was put to the government alongside a change from that 50-50 arrangement that I mentioned a minute ago to 70-30 in favour of the miners, so that any extra cash, anything else that's made off of it, goes to the miners rather than the government. But the Conservative government said no at the time and said that it felt the scheme was fair and beneficial.
Okay, how out of character for Boris Johnson. What have campaigners said then after last week's big announcement? Then what's the good news?
So throughout my entire time covering this, I've spoken with a chap called Mick Newton. Mick Newton worked at Thoresby Colliery for 15 years and was a fantastic campaigner on this issue. We spoke to him last Friday about this. He sat behind a table in town centres with a paper petition trying to get as many signatures as he could get, and he actually got 100,000 signatures, which they delivered to 10 Downing Street in 2019, calling for this change to come into effect. Now, the Labour Party actually pledged this, as you said at the start, in their manifesto, and he said to me that it was a long time. He said to Joe Locker, our local democracy reporter, that it's a long time coming. He'd spent roughly £20,000 of his own money paying for things like travel, accommodation, banners, fighting this cause, and said that it had genuinely affected his health, but said that it was a long time coming and that kind of its closure for him. Now, throughout my entire time covering this as well, I've been involved in a Facebook group. There's a Facebook group, I'm just a member of it. And there's a chap called Les Moore who has been involved in this as well. And on the group last week, he was getting a lot of thanks. And it's also something that the NUM, the National Union of Mine Workers, has praised as well.
Oh, fantastic! That's good to hear. So what's the benefit then for former miners here in Notts?
So you touched on it at the start. It's £29 per week extra on their pensions. So it works out at about £1,500 a year. Now you put that into the context of the winter fuel payments have been cut for pensioners, so that is something extra in the pockets, at least for the former mine workers here in Nottinghamshire. And when the announcement was made last week, the Labour Party said that there's roughly 8,200 former miners in Nottinghamshire who benefit from the mine workers pension scheme, the majority of them being areas like Mansfield, Bassetlaw. So there's 8,000 or so miners that are going to benefit from this, and it could £1,500 a year is not a thing to be shy of, is it?
Yeah, no, of course, no. It's great to hear that all that is finally paid off as well.
Indeed.
Thanks, Andrew. Right, moving on now, but still sticking with the local impact of last week's budget, because more than £9 million in levelling up cash that had been outlined for Hucknall may not be coming to the town after all. It's because the government has said this round of funding, which was pledged during the Conservative Party budget in the spring, hadn't actually been allocated by the Treasury. Projects there could have seen extra tourism plans, transport links and the sprucing up of shop fronts, but the Labour government has said the money will now be reviewed in a consultation. Sam Jones has got more.
Hello Hucknall. That's what Ashfield District Council hoped more people would be saying in the coming years when it was granted £9.2 million earlier this year. That levelling up cash would improve transportation, signage and fund cultural projects, including a potential tourism link for iconic figures Lord Byron and Ada Lovelace. But in the budget last week, that all changed. Ashfield District Council received confirmation from Nottingham North MP Alex Norris about changes to the funding, which was first outlined in March. Mr Norris, who's Under Secretary of State for the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government, confirmed this part of the funding could be withdrawn. However, the authority says it hasn't given up the battle yet.
Huge amounts of officer time and partner time have been spent on putting this bid together. So it's not a small piece of work. So we're really frustrated by this because we're ready to get going on this, and Hucknall really needs this. We were fearful that this might happen, but I was really surprised when it did, particularly with the narrative saying that they're cancelling a lot of cultural bids, whereas our bid for Hucknall covered so much more than culture. To be fair to them, they've said this is a consultation. However, it does seem a very biased language around it because they're saying they're mindful to pull it back. So we are going to be doing our damnedest to make sure that we're putting forward the case as to why this is so needed and why this is so important, so that they can see the value of what's being offered here.
In budget papers, the ministry, previously known as the Department for Levelling Up under the Tories, said unfunded commitments made by the last government could be withdrawn. A spokesperson from the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government said, "Growth is the number one priority of this government. That is why over £3 billion of investment in local growth was confirmed for the next year in the budget. This government inherited £22 billion of unfunded spending commitments, and we have therefore been forced to make the difficult decision to review these previously announced projects. The funding pot, which includes countless other projects across the country, will now go out to consultation. It isn't yet clear when this will take place, or whether this town will see the funding it was given back in March. Sam Jones for Notts TV.
Now staying with politics, and Newark MP Robert Jenrick lost out in his bid to become the new Conservative Party leader at the weekend. Mr Jenrick was up against Kemi Badenoch, who's the MP for North West Essex, and lost the popular vote of Tory party members. The contest had been going on since the Conservatives lost the general election in July. It saw the Newark MP and Miss Badenoch whittled down to the final two last month. The vote on Saturday saw the former business secretary pick up just over 56% of the 95,000 votes cast by members. Now, police in London have found a body as part of their search for a missing artist who's originally from Nottingham. Sarah Cunningham, who has links to the city and Woollerton, was reported as missing in the early hours of Saturday morning after last being seen in Camden. The Metropolitan Police launched a missing persons appeal and confirmed this morning a body had been found. They said it was on the tracks of the Chalk Fark Underground station, and while formal identification hasn't taken place, her family have been informed. The death isn't currently being treated as suspicious. Right, coming up, we're going to be looking at the results from on the grass and on the ice in sport, as well as how Notts could be the future home of AI and the arts together. It's on the way next for you. Hello, welcome back to Notts Today with me, Al Booth. I hope you're well. Here's some more of your news headlines. And a former teacher has been jailed for sexual offences against a pupil at a school where he worked. 46-year-old Craig Hill, who taught at Hall Park Academy in Eastwood, committed his offences in the 2010s and abused his position of trust as a teacher. An investigation was launched 2 years ago after the girl came forward before Hill admitted to 3 counts in court. Appearing in Nottingham Crown Court for sentencing on Friday, he was jailed for 32 months. He must also sign the sex offenders register indefinitely. And a distinctive gingerbread man air freshener helped police identify a cloned vehicle and the discovery of Class A drugs. Police spotted the car and the air freshener after seeing a driver on their phone, managed to track it down after suspecting it was using cloned plates. It was then spotted unattended outside flats in an area of Sutton in Ashfield, and after searching it, police found about 150 wraps of cocaine and heroin. 2 men were arrested at the scene during the incident, which happened on October the 25th. And we are going to be talking later in the show, is it too early to be putting up Christmas decorations? What's for them? Now, police have been holding events for students in the city to equip them with the skills to recognise when they're at risk from crime. Thousands of students joined in with the workshops across Nottingham College's 3 campuses last month, with interactive presentations helping them with issues including knife crime, misogyny, drugs, county lines and keeping safe on a night out. The aforesaid each presentation was tailored to be delivered by experts and gave students the chance to ask officers any personal advice once sessions had finished. Nottinghamshire Police shared a video on the workshops, which is this.
So we're here at Nottingham College to be part of their safety week. What we're trying to do is break down barriers. Okay, and we're trying to educate individuals on a numerous amount of topics, including knife crime, hate crime, misogynistic incidents. We're trying to upskill and we're trying to educate students and individuals to have a better understanding of how they can ultimately make themselves safer, how they can identify if they maybe have been a victim of crime, and the many support networks and support that there is out there, which is far-reaching across Nottinghamshire. Today I've been delivering a knife crime session where I've been educating students on knife crime law and been talking about the impact that it has on the victims of knife crime as well as the offenders of knife crime. And what the aims and objectives is really is to make sure they've got a better understanding of the impacts that it has to these individuals. Some young people find it difficult to speak with police, maybe have had bad experiences in the past, but we're all about rebuilding bridges, we're about reducing barriers And what we're doing by us coming and showing that, you know, yes, I am a police sergeant, I'm a police officer, but I'm also a human being. And by sharing those stories, as well as, again, some of the videos we've shown today involve lived experiences, it puts more of a personal spin on it, so they can understand that actually anybody could be a victim of knife crime, but as well, anyone can prevent knife crime. You know, it's not just the police that can do that, but those as individuals, by spreading the message, there's so much that we can do together.
Right, it's time for your sport now, and let's start with Nottingham Forest. They are third in the Premier League after beating West Ham 3-0 on Saturday. The Reds won the game thanks to goals from Chris Wood, he's on fire, isn't he? Callum Hudson-Odoi, and a lovely finish from fullback Ola Aina as well. Forest were also playing most of the game with an extra man after Edson Alvarez got sent off in the first half. Now, the win lifted Nuno Espirito Santo's side into third above Arsenal, who were favourites for the title at the start of the season. After the game, head coach Nuno was all smiles.
I think we control really well the danger that West Ham has with this quality in front, Bowen, Paquetá, Somerville, the speed, so this was important. And then I think going forward we're really positive. We play really well, we create a lot of situations. We score, the red card changes everything, but the worst thing that you can do, and the players avoid that, was to go complacent, being not having the desire to go and achieve what is our purpose, to try and always attack. They didn't do that, and we should be proud of the way the game finished. I think beautiful goals. Our fans, I think, what can we say about them? The noise and the support and now the happiness. Was a good day.
Well, this weekend also saw the first round of the FA Cup even get underway. Mansfield and Notts County got their cup campaigns going, both with wins. Mansfield beat National League North side Curzon Ashton by 4-0. Nigel Clough's side left Greater Manchester with the win thanks to goals from Lucas Atkins, Stephen Quinn, Ben Wayne and Ben Quinn, with the Stags also playing most of their game with an extra man as well. After the match, Clough said it was a solid team performance.
We gave it away a couple of times in a daft way, but I think Christie's had one shot, maybe two in the 90 odd minutes. One from a free kick in the second half, so we didn't have too many scares, and it was important as well. Two things to pick the team today was to win the game, and also to get people minutes on who needed them. You know, Alfie Kilgore back on the pitch, Aidan Flint after injury, Lucas Akins, Quinny's not played for a couple of weeks, Fraser Blake Tracy, Reedy missed last week, so it was as important for all those sort of boxes to be ticked today. I wish we could have put all the subs on. It was one of those, and you know, they let you sort of have 9 subs and you can only put 5 on. I get that, but it's one of those days where we could have put Tom Nichols on and Callum McDonald and Bailey, and everybody could have had a run out.
Notts County were also through to the second round. They beat Derbyshire side Alfreton Town 5-1 at Meadow Lane. The sides went into the break level after Matty Platt cancelled out Liam Waldock's opener for the visitors. The floodgates opened for County though in the second half. Giovanni Brown assisted Alassana Jatta twice. He netted 2 himself as well. And after the game, head coach Stuart Maynard said his side was dominant in the second half and took their chances well.
The lads dug deep, and we've got that in us this season. You've seen we've gone behind, we stay calm, and for me, Giovanni Brown tonight was outstanding. I think 2 goals, 2 assists, and we're starting to see what he's about. I think it can happen in these competitions. We knew their threats. They've got the big man down the middle. They've got a long throw, so we knew that they were a threat from lots of different areas. And look, they've taken their chance, and that's what happens in the Cup. These things happen, and it's how you recover. It's when you make mistakes or a goal goes in against the run of play, or when we're in control of the game in possession-wise, the goal goes in, you have to deal with it, and I think we've dealt with it very well. Look, when you go 1-0 down and in the Cup and you know that you need a bit of luck, I think that's a little bit of luck to turn it for us. So he misses his shot a bit, doesn't catch it quite clean, but it ends up in the goal, and I think that kind of changes the game and it swings it back in our favour.
Well, both sides have learned who their opponents will be in the second round of the Cup. Mansfield will travel to fellow League One side Stevenage for their second round tie. Notts County also drawn against League One side. They're going to play Peterborough United at Peterborough. All the second round ties will be played between Friday, November the 29th and Monday, December the 2nd. It was also a winning weekend for Nottingham Forest women as well, and that meant FA Cup progression for them. They saw off Bouldermere St Michael's 3-1. Carly Davis made 3 changes as Emily Batty, Nat Johnson and Sophie Domingo returned to the starting lineup. They took a 2-0 lead into half-time through Mel Johnson before Wellings doubled the lead just before the break. Second half goals from Boldmere's Lataya Bojang and Mel Johnson finished off the scoreline, and Forest head into the second round. In ice hockey, it was a double winning weekend for the Nottingham Panthers after they saw off Cardiff Devils and the Fife Flyers. They started the weekend at home, beating the Devils 3-1 at the Motorpoint Arena on Saturday. Then they travelled north of the border for an away clash with the Flyers and came away from that one as 4-3 victors. Here's some of the highlights from the victory over the Devils.
Takes the hit. Nielsen has done enough to squeak it clear, and it's flicked out the zone with a little more conviction by Kontos, who's won it back. Chance for Nottingham. Hembran, top corner! Panthers have the goal that their performance has deserved. Back onto the forehand as he looks back to the point. There's nobody there for him. Panthers player has lost his stick. Wickers, and it's in. Thrown toward goal. It's beaten Bednard. Olechevsky was making a real nuisance of himself in front. Fired down the ice, collected wonderfully by Hembran, lost it in the feet, manages to get it back on his blade. Hembran still has it. He's been Panthers' best player tonight. It's Hembran dancing and scoring! Oh, it had to be Dietrich Hembran tonight, didn't it?
Quiet, really, considering we're playing such a great team.
Here's Hembran. He's on a hat trick down the middle.
Exciting. Don't forget, we've got all the goals from the game with Cardiff Devils right here on Notts TV on Wednesday night. We're going to show all 4 goals on the channel from 9 p.m. The 2-hour show is going to be on after Team Talk. It's our evening of sport. If you missed that on the Wednesday, though, you can always see it Thursday morning at 11:30. Now, in rugby, it wasn't to be for Nottingham after they fell to defeat at home to Coventry. The match took place at the Bay in the Rugby Cup, with the Archers welcoming Championship League leaders Coventry to town. They lost the match by 15 points to 34, and that's thanks to tries from Coventry's Charlie Robson, Matt Johnson, Ryan Hutler, Jordan Poole and Will Lane. The match was filled with drama. Nottingham's Amanjo Howell was sent off in the second half. Coventry's David Opoku and Josh Barton both got 2 yellows as well. And talented team cricketer Freddie McCann has signed a contract extension with Notts until the end of 2027. He's enjoyed a summer of milestones. He made his debut for the club in all 3 formats and then earned his England under-19s call-up as well. That was when he equalled England's top youth ODI score when making 174 runs for 139 balls against Sri Lanka in July. In a statement, he said playing for the club he grew up supporting is really special and something he wants to continue. Right, let's have a look at your picture of the day, and it's a little different from the usual ones. It's some reenactors clashing at the Arboretum. Thanks to Drew Love Photography for sending that one in. Right, let's have a look at your weather. Typical November, really. It's a slightly misty one today, turning cloudy tonight, dropping to lows of 9 degrees. And then tomorrow, your bonfire night weather, again, it's going to be a misty start, overcast and cloudy. We should have some clear skies for the fireworks, though, if you're doing that. Highs of 12 degrees, so it still means wrapping up warm for your tomato soup and whatever else you have. And then once that's all over, drops to 10 degrees into Wednesday. It's pretty much the same, cloudy, highs 13. Right, then, when we come back, we're going to be meeting the university professor who's been looking into how artificial intelligence can help society and the arts. And if you are going out tonight, I'll tell you where you can go next. Hello, welcome back to Notts Today with me, Al. I hope you're doing well. Here are some of your news headlines. And the Deputy Leader of Nottingham City Council has said staffing the authority will become more expensive after last week's budget. The council will pay higher levels of national insurance contributions and wages to staff on the minimum wage after Chancellor Rachel Reeves brought in changes to both last week. Ethan Radford, who's the council's deputy leader, said the financial impact of these changes aren't yet known. However, he said he does expect it to cost the council more, but does believe a minimum wage boost will be welcomed by staff. And plans are progressing for new homes, specifically for former soldiers and the homeless in Eastwood. Broxtowe Borough Council has bought the land in Eastland's Hilltop area and plans to spend about £1.5 million on the block containing 8 apartments. The development would be accessed off Cross Street with 2 ground floor apartments designed to be wheelchair accessible as well. The authority says the plans would help to support former soldiers who have fallen into homelessness, and the Royal British Legion described the proposals as excellent. Right, if you fancy wrapping up warm before bonfire night, let's see what you can get out tonight in our What's On guide. If you're looking for some laughs, you're in the right place, the right city as well. It's the Nottingham Comedy Festival. We've got various venues all across the city hosting the funniest in the business. Vibes on Upper Parliament Street is one place. They've got their Den of Laughs tonight. It starts at 6:30. Tickets are just £6 for that. Or maybe you're feeling investigative. The New Sleuth is the crime-solving augmented reality feature. It's back in Nottingham. You can use your mobile phone for a citywide manhunt to find clues and killers. It all starts at 7. Tickets are £16 for that. Or Horn in the Hand, it's got its weekly pub quiz. You know about that. You can win £50 and it costs you just 50p to take part. You cannot go wrong. And it all starts at 7:30 as well. Have a good night, whatever you are up to. Right, let's talk about artificial intelligence on the show now, because researchers at the University of Nottingham have been awarded more than £6 million to put the art in artificial intelligence. Nottingham School of Computer Science are exploring the various ways that AI can collaborate with artists to create a series of robotic artworks, such as music and even dance, that will help not only better our understanding of the technology, but also show how adaptable AI can be. Here to tell us more is Professor Steve Benford. Steve, thanks for coming in.
Hello, welcome.
Congratulations on the money, I guess, first of all.
Yeah, thank you very much. Really exciting to be able to launch a whole new series of kind of artistic projects with robots.
So what does that allow you to do then?
Yeah, so it allows us, the research is what we call artist-driven. So, you know, we're kind of drawing on the creativity of artists, but also the fact they can kind of put these works in front of the public and give people a first-hand experience of AI that provokes people to reflect on what it might do for them, and really allows us to push the technologies in directions that it wouldn't otherwise go if it was left to computer scientists.
That's, I think, the thing with AI as well, isn't it? It does feel there's a lot of, you know, it's AI is going to take our jobs and all that. There's been all those conversations. But working collaboratively with it for members of the public doesn't seem to be something that's really been touched upon, really.
I think that's true. There is understandably a lot of concern about the impact AI might have on society, including in the creative sector. But perhaps what we lack is a sense of what it could also do for us and the possibilities it creates. And art is a fantastic sandpit where you can engage and play with that and get a feel for it in a way that's, you know, kind of relatively safe. And I think that's one of the things it really helps to do around the AI debate.
So let's talk about specifics then, because that's the fun bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what the actual specifics you're working on? I know we've got some film of things you've been working with, is it?
Yes, so the programme will lead with a series of exploratory projects. One of them is dancers dancing with robots. And there's been quite a lot of that over the years. But here we're looking at very kind of close physical contact with robots.
What you can see now, yeah.
So they're kind of improvising, they're touching. In this case, the robots are connected and sort of pushing back at them. So they feel the robots through their body. And the question is, how can robots sense the feelings and the pressure the dancers are putting on them and learn to respond? So, you know, if I have an interaction with you close up when I'm dancing, and I don't talk to you about it, I feel, I sense the movements. And the other project we were looking at there is improvising music with an AI. And in this case, we've got an AI that can compose, if you like, traditional folk tunes, but it can also improvise around them by listening to the musician and responding at the same time. So it's a kind of a live performance.
So what do we gain from that? I mean, you know, certainly in terms of the dancing, you know, it's great to look at and to feel, but what's the practicality of it? So
technically, it does something that's called adding, if you like, another modality to AI. AI at the moment is kind of very much about language. If you've used ChatGPT, it's about responding to language or sometimes to images. But here we want AI to also be able to respond to touch. If we want robots that are going to touch us in the future, and that could be really powerful in kind of applications of care and looking after people. Robots have a role to play. Then we need robots that know how to touch in a way that's kind of trusting and gentle, so we need that data. And the other thing robots have to learn to do, and AI in general, is to improvise, because humans are fantastic improvisers. That's how we engage with the world. We learn and we respond. And AI has to learn how to do that in real time, in the moment.
I realise all my questions appear to be like anti-AI, and they're really not, because it's a fascinating thing, and I think AI is great to to move forward with, isn't it? But this is very much about working together. It seems, working with it and in unison, rather than, like you say, rather than AI composing music and going, there you go, or doing AI art and going, there you go. This is all about collaboration, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think it's so it's not about AI replacing artists. Often is the case when you get a new technology. For example, when it enters the music industry, the first reaction is to try and recreate what you've already done more cheaply. So when samplers were created, people thought, well, okay, we just want to make realistic sounds. When sequencers turned up, it was, can I just program the normal stuff? Sooner or later, then somebody creative figures out and finds the glitch in the technology that makes it do something crazy when you scratched vinyl for the first time. And out of that emerges something that no one's seen before. And I think what we're looking for with AI is that moment where it does something unusual. Initially people will go, that's not art.
Right.
And then start to figure out that actually it is something. And that's then when the agenda shifts a bit from just replacing or replicating what we do to actually enabling us to make new stuff that we've never seen before.
It's fascinating. It's great that it's happening here in Nottingham as well.
Yeah, absolutely. What a great city for it to happen in.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much, and congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Absolute pleasure.
Right, let's have a look at your top story again now, because we've been looking at this on the show about how last week's budget could cause staffing costs to rise at the City Council. Well, another council is also raising some concerns after more than £9 million in levelling up cash was put at risk in Hucknall. That's because the government has said this round of funding, which was pledged originally during the Conservative Party budget in the spring, hadn't actually been allocated by the Treasury. The projects there could have seen extra tourism projects, transport links and the sprucing up of shop fronts as well. But Labour said the cash hadn't actually been allocated for those plans. Sam Jones has got more.
Hello Hucknall. That's what Ashfield District Council hoped more people would be saying in the coming years when it was granted £9.2 million earlier this year. That levelling up cash would improve transportation, signage and fund cultural projects, including a potential tourism link for iconic figures Lord Byron and Ada Lovelace. But in the budget last week, that all changed. Ashfield District Council received confirmation from Nottingham North MP Alex Norris about changes to the funding, which was first outlined in March. Mr Norris, who's Under Secretary of State for the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government, confirmed this part of the funding could be withdrawn. However, the authority says it hasn't given up the battle yet.
Huge amounts of officer time and partner time have been spent on putting this bid together. So it's not a small piece of work. So we're really frustrated by this because we're ready to get going on this, and Hucknall really needs this. We were fearful that this might happen, but I was really surprised when it did, particularly with the narrative saying that they're cancelling a lot of cultural bids, whereas our bid for Hucknall covered so much more than culture. To be fair to them, they've said this is a consultation. However, it does seem a very biased language around it because they're saying they're mindful to pull it back. So we are going to be doing our damnedest to make sure that we're putting forward the case as to why this is so needed and why this is so important, so that they can see the value of what's being offered here.
In budget papers, the ministry, previously known as the Department for Levelling Up under the Tories, said unfunded commitments made by the last government could be withdrawn. A spokesperson from the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government said, "Growth is the number one priority of this government. That is why over £3 billion of investment in local growth was confirmed for the next year in the budget. This government inherited £22 billion of unfunded spending commitments, and we have therefore been forced to make the difficult decision to review these previously announced projects. The funding pot, which includes countless other projects across the country, will now go out to consultation. It isn't yet clear when this will take place, or whether this town will see the funding it was given back in March." Sam Jones for Notts TV.
Right, let's have a look at more news headlines now. 2 men have been charged after a suspected pharmacy break-in was foiled by police. Officers were in Rosemary Street in Mansfield at 10 to 3 on Saturday morning. They heard a security alarm going off and arrived to find intruders inside the business Officers arrested 2 men and also recovered a hammer from the pavement. 51-year-old Dean Graves of Welbeck Street and 35-year-old Jamie Harris of no fixed address were due in Nottingham Magistrates Court today, charged with burglary. And an inquest into the death of a man whose body was found 50 years after he went missing will continue later this month. Alfred Swinscoe had been drinking in Pinxton when he went missing in January 1967. The 54-year-old miner's body was found by a Sutton-in-Ashfield farmer last year. Nottinghamshire police have been investigating his death and believe 2 murder suspects have since died. But now an inquest into the circumstances of his death will continue. The coroner has set a date of November the 18th. Now, it is Bonfire Night Eve, but does that mean it's okay to start talking about Christmas, or is it still too soon? We'll be asking you next. And because it's TV and we can't directly hear your answers, we're going to be talking about Christmas anyway, because a Christmas card competition is being launched by a Notts care home. You'll hear all about that and what it means next. Hello, welcome back to Notts Today with me, Al Booth. Here's some more of your news headlines. Several pubs in Notts are joining forces with the Royal British Legion this month to sell new poppy-designed pint glasses to raise cash for the cause. The partnership is between the RBL and pubs run by the Marston Brewery, with specifically designed pint and half-pint glasses plastered in poppies on offer in the pubs. They cost £2.50 and come as part of a measure to also tackle the number of glasses stolen from pubs. All proceeds from the project will go towards the annual Poppy Appeal, and 3 Marston's pubs in Gedling are among those taking part. And work is underway to transform a public footpath between Sutton and Kirkby and make it more accessible for cyclists, wheelchair users and pushchairs as well. The work will see the half-a-mile cycling and walking route between Southern Lane and Penny Emma Way widened by Ashfield District Council. The work is expected to take 6 weeks, where workers will also be clearing some part of vegetation from the path. They'll also create new signage and resurface it using recycled materials. It's been funded through government cash. Now, as we approach the festive season, it's always a bit of a debate about how early is too early. Is it too soon to put up your Christmas tree? Is it too soon to put baubles or tinsel up, or to dig in to some mince pies, which have been in the shop since September, by the way? Well, after tomorrow, which is Bonfire Night, it means there's no more celebrations because we're not Americans, we don't have Thanksgiving. So it's just a long wait, isn't it? So we've been out to the Old Market Square, where the return of Winter Wonderland is imminent, to ask you when it becomes acceptable to start celebrating Christmas.
I always I'm quite excited once this goes up and the autumn leaves are on, and I start feeling a bit Christmassy, yeah. I love waiting for the tram, listening to George Michael Last Christmas, belting out from there. It always makes me smile.
So when do we put the decorations up, do you know?
On the Christmas tree.
On the Christmas tree, and we normally do that on the 1st of December, don't we?
I think anywhere within the month, I reckon. If it's December, that's fine.
But not before.
That's just wrong.
I know a lot of families, like the whole month is like, oh, celebrate. But for me, it's always been really only like 5 days, if anything. That's it.
I think just by the end of November, I feel like that's when people really start celebrating Christmas.
December. 1st December is Christmas. Until then, December, that's it.
As soon as Halloween's over for me.
Yeah, same here. Yeah. Gives you time to save up for Christmas.
Before Halloween it's way too early, and before our dad's birthday, because my dad's birthday is before Christmas, near to Christmas time.
I start and celebrate Christmas from the 1st of December. I put my Christmas tree up and I put all my trimmings out.
As soon as Halloween's finished, we should start the joy of Christmas.
Personally, I love Christmas.
Yeah,
it's the best holiday ever. If you could keep it going all year round, I would do it.
It'll be here before we can afford it. Now, speaking of Christmas, a community care home in Newark is spreading some early Christmas cheer at local primary schools. It's doing it by launching a Christmas card competition. This one, though, comes with a twist because Red Rose Care Home has invited pupils to design a festive card, which is then going to be judged by people who live there. The winning design will be sent out to residents, families and local businesses, and is all part of a scheme by staff to build relationships between residents and the wider community, as well as to encourage young people to engage more with their elders and nurture relationships. Here to tell us more is Red Homes Group's CEO, Roger Daniel. Hi Roger, thank you for being here. So how did this all come about then, this idea?
Hi Al, good evening. Well, we've appointed a new marketing lady, a lady who's been with us for a few years called Sarah Taylor, who was going to do the interview tonight, but she was a bit nervous about going on the TV. But this is one of her brilliant ideas about connecting the community with the care home and the residents that we have at the care home, and of course the families as well.
So who's taking part in designing the Christmas card? Because it's not too early, because you need to design them now so they can then be sent out, so that's fine.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think the idea behind it was we've been in touch with a number of the local primary schools and junior schools to see who would be interested in engaging in this. We've only sent out letters last week, but already 2 or 3 schools have come back and they think it's a brilliant idea and a lovely opportunity for the children to design something. Christmas cards for the residents, and we've said we'll have probably 2 or 3 prizes. I think 3 prizes in the end for the best 3, and then the best card we'll have printed, and we'll use that as our card across the care home group for Newark, and obviously we've got homes in Lincolnshire as well.
Yeah, it's a lovely thing. What is the relationship like between the care homes and the community then? Because like you say, this is to bolster that. So.
Well, it takes work. I mean, yeah, we often feel we're a little bit forgotten in our care home communities. The doors close and we look after our residents, but we try very hard to keep those doors open, not only to have people coming in, but also to have our clients coming out as well. And there's a lovely story I just reminded me earlier about a couple of years ago. We had the local scout group came in from Farndon, which is where Red Rose Care Home is. And one of the old chaps was sitting around. We created a fake fire, and he just threw in that Robert Baden-Powell had been round to his house for lunch when he was about 7 or 8 years old and sat with his mum and dad. Wow. And this just came out of nowhere. So we started to have a little chat. He said, and of course, he lost his dad when he was very young, which is why he started the Scouts. And I was a scout at Farndon when I was a kid. I had no idea about this story. I certainly had no idea that Robert Baden-Powell didn't have a father, and that's why he launched the Scouts, because he wanted to give boys, father figures and elder brother figures growing up. So these little moments, just remind us all really that we're not just part of history. We're all part of the same story, really. The 6, 7-year-old Scouts that come into the Scout Masters. To me, in my history with the Scouts as well, it was just a lovely moment of interaction between clients in the care home and the community.
Yeah, absolutely. I had no idea of that either. You learn something every day, don't you?
There you go.
And so what was Christmas like in a care home then, typically?
Well, I mean, the staff are amazing. I know you obviously see on TV, care home staff, 1 minute they're getting battered and the next minute they're the Florence Nightingales of Great Britain. And I certainly think the latter is more true. The commitment from the staff and the families as well is unbelievable. At Christmas, we have people dress up as Father Christmas. Sometimes we have chariots come in. Everybody gets Christmas presents. People are contributing to Christmas presents. Also, we have some residents unfortunately don't have a family, or they've lost perhaps a partner in the last year or two, and so they need additional support as well. But the family feeling that comes from the residents' families are amazing, part of the journey, and obviously the staff as well are unbelievably committed, right the way up to Christmas and right through and right out the other side of Christmas as well. So it's a very, very active, quite complex time, because there's mixed emotions of joy and memories, a little tinged with a bit of sadness sometimes, but it's a lovely time to be together as a family at the care home.
And like you say, just that thing of building between the community. I know last year my son and his class went into a care home and sang Christmas carols and songs, and the stories that they share, really.
Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely right. Yeah, I remember there's another story. Another chap who's at Grantham who's got some physical disabilities, and he just threw in that he was at Great Ormond Street with Roger Bannister, who of course broke the 4-minute mile only just 40 odd years ago, and he said, "Oh, he was my doctor, and he saved my I had a spine injury, and he saved me back then." And so when he went on and ran his mile, I remembered he was my doctor. You think, where do these stories come from?
Yeah.
If you don't make the effort to go out and see people and go and visit our history and the people that have been on the planet for 60, 70, 80, 90 years, it's absolutely fascinating.
It's brilliant. Well, it's a great competition. It's launching this week. Thank you so much for coming on and talking to us about it and sharing.
Thank you for the opportunity, and keep up the good work.
Thank you, Roger. And you too, of course. Your work's better than mine. Now, if you missed the latest episode of Notts TV Debate with Francis Finn, you can catch it at nottstv.com or on our official YouTube channel, Notts TV Official. Fran and her panel have been discussing many things, including tomorrow's US election.
First of all, I'd say I can't believe that these are the only two people they can find to be President of the United States. But out of the two, the last time he was in, there was no wars for 4 years. He seemed to have sorted that out. How he did it?
Did he sort it out?
Well, yeah, he was in charge. He's the man. He's in charge. Yeah, he sorted it out.
Do you think the other nations feared what he might do?
Well, he may do. May feel they may fear that. So let's bring a bit of that in. I would support him.
The Democrats very much dispute the narrative that Trump likes to put out there about his time. I don't think the economy grew as he'd promised. I think there was still immigration. There were still jobs being lost in industry. I don't think he did deliver on many of the things he promised, but people quickly forget that, don't they?
I think you're right. I cannot believe that these are the only two people in the United States who really should be running for president. This is just terrible. And you talk about no wars when Trump was in the... the gun lobby, he's so misogynist. He incites problems and violence everywhere he goes.
I mean, there's not much lower to go, really, is there?
An appalling
in terms of a personal character.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the connection to the branding of the person, the integrity, I think is now, us as people, we're beginning to shift to that being more of the focus rather than what can you do for the country, how are you going to represent my voice toward the country in the global community. I think that is incredible.
There you go, and you can see that nottstv.com and also on Notts TV Official, our new YouTube site. Hit the bell, subscribe, do all that they say on the things that my kids watch. Right, picture of the daytime now. This is a reenactment at the Arboretum, thanks to Drew Love Photography for sending that one in. Weather-wise, misty one today. It's going to be cloudy going into tonight, dropping to 9 degrees into tomorrow. It's going to be overcast, but the sky should clear for bonfire night tomorrow night. Highs of 12. Whatever you're doing, have a good one. I'll see you before bonfire night starts. I'm back with you tomorrow at 5:30. Yeah, have a good evening. I'll see you then. Bye.